Well, welcome back. I'm Randall from FloraBama Homestead, and David the Good came over today, and we were sawing out some boards for him. And I wanted to show him one of the little side projects I got going on, and it's creating a wild food forest for the deer and the other animals that are in our area. You can see here we got this Bradford Pear, and it's been here ever since the lady built the house. So this tree is probably around 40 years old now. You can see we lost one of the big limbs right here. It's very poor wood, and if you ever been around Bradford Pear, you know that these things like to break off, and it's a bad tree to have. And then you get these little seedling pears on here, and the birds like to eat these, and then they'll fly out to the tree and then they'll drop the seeds out across the field and the fence rows. Then you get these little wild prickly Bradford pear that come up just everywhere. So I was talking with my neighbor over there, and I said, hey man, I said, I got some scion of these different pear trees. How about I come over and graft those wild seedling pears to fruiting pears, and that'll help feed the deer. And he's got a little food, deer feeder set up on the back of his property over there. So I'm gonna show you around and show you what we've got going on over there. This was a kefir pear that I bought at a store, and basically I'm just using this in my orchard, and I'm taking all my pears that I collect and I'm grafting onto this tree. So I've got Golden Boy, I've got Orient, Maxine, Florida 5845, which is called Killer Pear, Tennessee, Southern Bartlett, Scarlet, Southern Bartlett, and I got Southern King here. And I had Leona, but I accidentally grafted over that, so I'm gonna have to reacquire Leona. But all my pear trees that I got growing out in the wild, I can come by and just snip off a little piece of scion and go out there and graft all these different varieties onto there. But at the same time, this one tree will give me a good amount of fruit. Kefir pear, it's a hard pear, and a lot of people love them, a lot of people don't love them. I could really care less about the kefir pear. But the root stock that this is on was suitable for our area. That's why I bought a kefir, planted it in the ground. And I think I got one stick in here that I kept, and everything has been grafted over. So right here on my side of the fence, before I had this idea and discussed it with the neighbor, I was just gonna try my hand at grafting these pears just to see how they would do. 2 years ago, I come over here and I had a little sprig coming up right on the property line, just on my side of the fence. And I took a piece of scion wood and I grafted it on there, and it grew up to probably about here the first year, but then last year it took off. And then I discussed it with my neighbor. I was like, hey man, I can graft all these wild pears that are not doing anything for you, you know, and the deer can come in and eat those. And he thought it was a great idea. So now I have all this scion wood right here. This is Golden Boy, all that, and then this is Florida 5845. And then in there, I've already grafted on Scarlet Pear. I've got it in the brush over there somewhere. I've got another one. So those are the varieties that I've tested, and it seemed to be doing well. So we're going to go ahead, and I've got permission to go on his property and start grafting here in, when it's grafting season. I have to cut the big stump off, and I put a little twig on that side of the bark and then on this side of the bark. So I've got 2 sticks of the same variety. I got Mariana's 2640 rootstock right here growing, and I intended to use this little line to propagate rootstock off of, and I just haven't done anything with it. But the rootstock is here if I ever decide I can frame up around it, cut it down, and let the fresh sprigs start coming up, put sawdust over those, and then that will set roots. And then later on in the year, pull the sawdust back, cut the little sticks off, and then you've got a plum rootstock that you can use to plant out orchards with. But I should be able to get a good amount of rootstock just out of this one little bush that I got. The stool bed is what they call it when you're propagating rootstock. But I've got M111 apple rootstock growing right here. But you can see right there I got roots coming off of that and then off of that. So now that I have the sawmill, I'm going to frame this up and I'm going to fill this on up with sawdust, and then that will help propagate roots off of that. So I'm going to kick that into production. This is Nemagard peach. This was a rootstock. I had a peach in the orchard that died off, and rather than digging it up and throwing it away, I put it in ground right here so that I can come along and later in the spring whack it off, graft on top of it, and I have a good healthy root system of peaches. So, right here I dug up a wild elderberry, stuck that in the ground, so that's starting to grow. Just let that take over the corner. So if you got a plant that died back from cold or bugs got it, but the rootstock comes back up from the ground, you have a really good root system that's already established in the ground. So just go ahead and take the top off of it, put your scion wood right on top of that rootstock, then you have an established plant that's been there for many years, ready to go. When you put that fresh scion wood on that rootstock and it starts pushing, within 1 year, that thing's gonna take off and push a lot of growth, and you'll be really surprised at how well of a tree you can get out of basically nothing that was useless. So whatever you've got that's a waste, think about how you can reuse that.
You can lose your fear. You can lose your fear of grafting.